and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody, and on my channel I talk about Broadway and books. And in today's video I will be continuing my Broadway show series where I talk about every Broadway show I've ever seen. So normally in the series on my channel I will go over who's in the cast of my performance, who is on the creative team, how I like the show, and anything interesting in the playbill. So without any further ado, let's get on to today's show. So today I'll be talking about the 30th Broadway show I ever got to see, which was the Broadway revival of Man of La Mancha. So I saw this show in February 2003 at the Martin Theater, which this theater has since rechanged its name to the Al Hirschfeld Theater, which is now the current home to the Broadway musical Moulin Rouge. So now let's get on into what is in the playbill. So this is a page that lists everyone involved in Man of La Mancha when I saw the show in 2003. Next up is the headshots of the lead and supporting performers. And next up will be the headshots of the chorus standbys and understudies. Okay, so this is the point of the video where I go over who is in the cast and point out any names that I may recognize from having seen the other Broadway shows since I saw them in Man of La Mancha or in television and movies. So I'll get to that now. So, yeah, Brian Stokes Mitchell was in the show. He played Don Quixote, which was the lead character, and I never got to see Brian Stokes Mitchell in a show before this, so this was my first show that I got to see him in, and he's just like such an amazing talent, such an amazing performer, and it was really cool to finally get to see him in a Broadway show. He's done several Broadway shows since being in Man of La Mancha. I can't remember for sure if I have seen him in a Broadway show after I saw him in Man of La Mancha, but yeah, he's done a lot of Broadway shows, and he's just an amazing talent, and it was really cool to get to see him in a show. Ernie Sabella was in the show, and he, looking at his biography, he had done a lot of Broadway shows before he was in Man of La Mancha. This was just the first show I saw him in, but I more know him from television. A few years ago, I watched the whole series of Perfect Strangers because, you know, I kind of remember that show in the 90s, like watching it here and there, but I never watched like the whole series entirely. And he was, I believe, on most of the first season. So that's one of my favorite shows, TV shows. But this is getting a bit off track. But the reason I kind of got into wanting to watch Perfect Strangers again, and that's how I found out, you know, he was on the TV show. There was a TV show on HBO called The Leftovers, and Perfect Strangers kind of ties into that show in little ways. And yeah, Perfect Strangers has one of the best TV show theme songs, one of my favorites. And at some point, The Leftovers had that in like their opening credits. This is like totally off track, but it kind of connects to Man of La Mancha because Ernie Sabella was in Man of La Mancha. He was on Perfect Strangers, and you know, it all connects to one another. But yeah, I got a little off track, but anyway, Mark Jacoby was in the show, and I'm not positive, but I think he is in A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical at the moment. I could be mistaken on that, but he was in this show. Natasha Diaz, Olga Meredez, who I saw in The Heights, and let's see who else I recognize now. Andy Blankenmiller was in the show, which I had no memory of, which is really odd. I say that because he was in Saturday Night Fever on Broadway, and that's like the show that really got me into Broadway much more than I had been before. And yeah, he was in that show, and I usually remember when somebody from that show is in another show, so I can't believe I didn't remember that. But Andy Blankenmiller, obviously, if you're very into Broadway, you know he's a very famous choreographer, and he's directed some Broadway shows as well. He won a Tony Award for his choreography in The Heights and Hamilton. But yeah, that's super cool to relearn because I didn't remember that. And then Lorraine Lorado was in the show. I believe she is a Broadway choreographer now. Let's see, anybody else I recognize? Jimmy Smagula. I believe he's in the current Broadway revival of Spamalot. And yeah, those are the only names I recognize from, you know, having seen the other Broadway shows since, or on movies and television, and things such like that. Now I'll get on to the creative team and point out any names I may recognize from having seen them worked on other shows since I saw them work on Man of La Mancha. I don't think I recognize absolutely anybody's name. Yeah, I don't recognize anyone's name, unfortunately. But I'm sure they've worked on other shows. I mean, I haven't seen every single Broadway show that's been on Broadway, so I don't, so I guess I'll just move on to now how I like the show. So I really, yeah, I really liked Man of La Mancha. That being said, I don't remember much about the show. And I've said this before in the series on my channel, if a show isn't a favorite of mine, I can sometimes remember how I like the show, but also at the same time forget a lot of the story and the details of the show. And the only reason the only reason I most likely remember my favorite shows, even though I've seen them several years ago, more than shows I remember I liked, is because I saw those shows like several times. So yeah, I remember I liked the show. I don't remember much about it. I do kind of faintly remember the story. It's like Don Quixote, who was played by Brian Schultz Mitchell in the show, which is the lead character in the show. He's like on a quest to find like his purpose in life. Perhaps I think that's what it is, and that's all I kind of can remember. I'll just point out some musical numbers now that I do remember because this has a pretty great score from what I remember. I remember a few songs that, even though I haven't seen the show in many years, I do remember these songs and I remember they were performed very well. Um, so I'll just quickly go over that. Man of La Mancha, um, which is Man of La Mancha which is like a song in the show. Obviously, the show's called Man of La Mancha. But I Don Quixote. Yeah, that song is kind of like a song, you know, you don't forget. It's like kind of like one of those memorable Broadway songs, and I like that song. And then another song that I really like is The Impossible Dream. That's a very well known Broadway song as well. And yeah, that's kind of it. So as far as, like as far as how I like the show, I liked it. I just don't remember a lot about it. It's been a long time since I've seen the show. And I'll just get now on into. Oh, I will say though, despite not remembering a lot about the show, I do remember the cast being really great. Like Brian Sos Mitchell was really amazing in the leading role of Don Quixote. He was absolutely fantastic, and when he sang The Impossible Dream, it was just like a sight to be seen. I do remember that moment in the show. It was just like one of those great Broadway moments on the stage because it's just like such an incredible song, and he has such a great voice, and it was one of those incredible moments on the stage. So now I'll get into what is in the playbill. There were a few interesting things in here. I won't take too long with this because I don't want to make this video too long. So yeah, I saw the show in February 2003, and then so at the time Roger Bart was in the original cast of the producers, where he eventually left the show, and then a few years later he rejoined the show in a different part. He was now playing the role of one of the lead characters of Leo Bloom, and I actually will be talking about my time seeing this show because it's I believe 2 shows from now, so I will talk about that my time seeing him in that show eventually because I did get to see him play Leo Bloom in The Producers, so there's a whole article in here about him joining the show, playing that character now. And then at the time, Take Me Out, the original Broadway production of Take Me Out that played at the Walter Kerr, was currently on Broadway. This is a show I literally wanted to see so bad when it was on Broadway. I really wanted to see the show. It just looked really amazing, and I heard so many great things about it. And then obviously, if you're familiar with the current Broadway scene, a few years ago there was a Broadway revival of Take Me Out that I believe played at the Hayes Theater. I think it's called the Hayes Theater now. It's the second. Oh, maybe it's the Second Stage Theater. It used to be called the Helen Hayes, but it's I don't know what I can't remember what the theater's called now. But the Second Stage, it's like Second Stage Productions on Broadway at the theater that used to be the Helen Hayes Theater. They did a revival there, and then I believe like a few months later, the show transferred to another Broadway theater, and I missed out on seeing it. But in case you didn't know, I did hear a while ago that Hulu was going to make a TV series adaptation of the play, and I believe Jesse Williams is supposed to star in the show on Hulu. So at least I'll eventually get to see the story in some way or another. But yeah, I talked too long about that, but yeah, here's an article about Take Me Out when it was originally on Broadway. I'm still bummed to this day that I missed out on the revival because it's like I had a chance to see it in another way. I had a chance to see the show and I missed out on it. But you know what? It's totally fine. It happens. And then there's Dennis O'Hare he actually won a Tony Award for his performance in this show. And I believe that's Frederick Weller as well. He was in the show. And then let's see what else. Oh, here's a advertisement for Take Me Out, and I'm just learning now that I didn't realize, but no, it wasn't the Walter Kerr. For a second there, I got confused. I was like, I thought it played at that theater, but yeah, I love this advertisement. Now let's see. Well, here's a little thing about Man of La Mancha. They had a CD come out for the show. It's also kind of like a picture of the show as well. You can kind of see what it looked like. And then, wow, there's like so much fun stuff in this playbill. Neil Patrick Harris had just joined the cast of Cabaret, the revival Cabaret on Broadway. I think that's kind of it. And so now I'll get on into the next Broadway show I will be talking about, which will be my 31st Broadway show. So I ended up seeing Mamma Mia a total of 3 times on Broadway, and my next show, I will be talking about my second time seeing Mamma Mia on Broadway. So that will be my 31st show that I will be talking about in this series. So, yeah, if you've made it to this point of the video, thank you so very much for watching me talk about the 30th Broadway show I ever saw, which was the Broadway revival of Man of La Mancha in 2003. So, as always, thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, bye!